Welcome, everybody, to another episode of The Most Important Conversations. I'm here with my co-host, Jenna Smith. How you doing, Jenna?
Good. I match your background, actually.
You
I just noticed
do.
that.
The gold. You got the gold thing going on here. Well, we do try to color coordinate. That's for sure.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Psychically, we don't talk about it ever.
Yeah. And I cut my hair, so this kind of looks like grass or something.
Yeah,
You know,
the
it could be.
spiky. It's nice.
So maybe that fits too.
Yeah.
We've got a big topic today and a shorter episode. We'll probably dig into this a bit more on future episodes because it's kind of a big thing.
Big deal.
People, how do I frame this? So there's a lot of stuff going on right now in the world that has people feeling unsafe because there's uncertainty, there's unpredictability about where it's heading, what might the ramifications be on their life. And of course, relationships get completely thrown, for a loop when people are feeling unsafe and confused and disorientated. And there's a lot of disorientating things politically, economically, socially, with all of the change that's going on. And there's just so many threads we could pull on around this because maybe people are feeling unsafe in a relationship because of what's happening in the world, although the couple agrees, like maybe they're aligned in terms of worldview, but because of the lack of safety externally, it's still impacting the way they relate to each other. And then there's going to be couples who don't share a worldview, and that's going to create even more friction because not only are they dealing with the lack of perceived safety, well, one might feel totally safe, while the other's feeling like the world is falling in.
Yeah.
And then what do you do in those kind of relationships? So before we got on the episode today, you and I were talking that you're getting a lot of this right now. There's a lot of people coming through your practice that are trying to navigate this feeling of uncertainty, insecurity, safety. So just in terms of setting up the conversation, share a little bit about some of the things that you're hearing. And then when we get into the deep dive of the segment, we can really start to look at the different nuances of all of this.
Right. The biggest thing showing up, I have some clients in California. So it was like the fires, and then there was all of the other happenings and feeling out of control in a way that unprecedented. It was like COVID was unprecedented, but we haven't really healed from that either. And so before in my work, there'd be this phenomenon called your survival mechanism, which was who you are when you have to survive, who you are when you're in a deep state of fear. And that's necessary when you're in survival. But it's kind of hard when you're like going through your daily life and it's your norm. Now you're going to be scarcity. Now you're going to blame. Now you're going to be entitled. And so you've got all of these defense mechanisms coming up, making people feel even more unsafe. Even themselves are like, who am I? Who's this?
Maybe you're doubting yourself. Like, do I even understand what's going on in the world and my relationship to it? Which then makes me question, do I even know myself and what's important to me?
And the more you're in fear, the more you contract your reality down. So it's like, it feels like it'll be forever. Like the feeling you're having now feels like it will be forever. So when we're in a state of fear, everything contracts down. And so I've been focusing with people on how to access themselves in a way that they can use their imagination if need be. So if you're in a relationship where you're not on the same page, so you're like alone in partnership with roommates, how can we use our imagination, which is also really hard to access in a state of fear? Unless it's worrying, to regather the imagination energy and do a visualization. It sounds so silly and Care Berry. It sounds like even when I suggest it, I'm like, oh, go into your heart space and see yourself feeling really safe. But the payoff is to recalibrate the system so you aren't in this state of fear that's creating all sorts of symptomatic issues for people, which are the fights and the pettiness and it's a lot. But that's what I've been seeing a lot of. How do we get you to access within yourself, no matter what the circumstances are, no matter what the relationships are, a sense of safety, and then go out into the world from there, or then relate from. And if possible, if you're on the same page as your partner, do it with each other. And that'll be even stronger to like, okay, shit's going crazy, but in this bedroom right now, I've got you. Like, to really feel connected and safe with another person would be even more amplifying.
It reminds me of, have you ever seen that movie, Meet the Fockers?
I have, but what is
Meet the Parents?
Yeah.
Well, De Niro's whole circle of trust, so it's like in the relationship, you're like, right now in this bedroom, we are in this circle, we have created an energetic fortress against, all the disruption and the craziness happening in the world.
Yeah. I do it. Like, I'll have to relook at that scene. I don't remember it, but like, to use our imagination for how could I feel safe right now versus, oh my God, 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 oh my God. Like, it is not working for people. It is really, you don't want to create from a place of fear, but people are in a chronic state of fear.
So first of all, there's being in relationship with someone that you do not share a worldview with. And that's a separate dynamic that's even more complicated, I think, than if you're in a relationship where you do share a worldview. But then I want to also, in either case, I want to talk a little bit about, and we touch on this a lot, but the role of relationship with yourself as being the starting point, regardless of what's happening with your partner. So this whole lack of self-trust, and now or the lack of self-trust is just adding to the problem, because you're in relationship with someone else, they're sharing a worldview with you. You may be confused. Like, I don't understand the worldview. I'm starting to question myself. Do I even know what I think? Does what I think matter to my partner? So it chips away. Like, a lot of that fear that you're talking about, I think, is rooted at the inception point of lack of self-trust. Because if you have self-trust, it doesn't mean that you won't have concerns in the world, but it won't be crippling, because you will trust yourself to be able to navigate that. In the case of a relationship, maybe you don't share a worldview with your partner and it's getting to a breaking point. If you have self-trust, you could be like, okay, this just doesn't work for me anymore. I'm not doing this. Right?
Yeah, you can make powerful decisions.
Yeah, but if you don't have self-trust, you capitulate, and you find yourself, just wanting to avoid the conflict, avoid the argument, the resistance, the fear, all the negative emotions, and so you go into this avoidance state. So I want to talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, it would be avoidance, or like, F it, I'm out. Like, extreme reaction.
Yeah. And F it, I'm out may be viable, but only if it's coming from a place of self-trust and power.
Exactly. So from a non-reactive place, we want to make powerful choices, but it all comes down to that self-trust place.
It's especially uncertain and unknown right now, Jenna, because there's so many things that we as humans thought were set up and in place, so I don't have to think about those things anymore. And that creates kind of like a foundation so that we can deal with the new uncertainty. But now it's like we're deconstructing the certainty we had in the midst of more uncertainty. So it's like, it's weird compounding problem, right? I mean, it's like, it's like, oh,
it's a lot for the mind to try to digest and hold at the same time. If the mind needs certainty to feel okay. But that's why we talk about self-trust. It's like a deeper sense of certainty than control of the mind. Like, no, this is going to be fine. I don't have to think about it. But there's been stuff going on behind closed doors that we haven't known about for years. It's just now we're knowing about things.
Good point. That's true. So let's kind of tick down the list of the things we want to talk about. Let's talk first about people in our relationship and there's a lot of people like this right now, during COVID and through the last US election cycle, And it ripples through all the countries in the world, through
Yes.
Europe, Canada. Everyone's kind of having their own experience of this. So it's all connected because we're all connected. So what's emerged over the last few years for people is, gee, I thought I knew my partner. And now I've discovered we have totally different worldviews about so many things. What do we do in situations like that where you're in a relationship, married, maybe you're not married, it's just a long-term common law kind of partnership situation, or even if you're dating and you've been with someone for a while and you discover, to your shock, they have totally different worldviews and value systems than I thought, or I assumed, or maybe they've changed. Maybe they once believed something and now they don't. I mean, how do couples navigate a relationship where you have fundamental different assumptions about, what's important, how the world works? I mean,
I don't think you do. Like, I think there's a thing called complementary and compatibility. Like, I think your non-negotiables are what they are. So if you met somebody and you're like, I knew they already had these belief systems and like, I'm choosing them because I love them and I'm good. And like, I believe what I believe in, and it doesn't affect us. But I think to not feel like you have an ally in partnership is tricky.
Yeah. Well, what even defines the partnership?
Exactly. At that point? So that's kind of my thoughts about that. And I mean, as I said, like, I don't experience a lot of people, if they come in about relationship, like there's been a long, slow descent into roommate level of like, doesn't even matter. Like, so like they're like so far gone. It's just a matter of like, now what for that person. So really it's more self-empowerment for the person who's seeing, I want more for myself and this isn't working for me at this time. The solution isn't to leave right away. It isn't like, this isn't working, I'm out. Like, to just consciously tune into yourself and make decisions from there. But to start with you, like that's been the majority of the conversations. But I don't see how you can approach, like in partnership, have the advantage of two humans coming together towards the world, towards the goals, towards the whatever you're creating, and be so like diametrically opposed. Like, I mean, that just feels like too hard.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking of, so let's say someone was able to ground themselves into a really deep place of self-trust and knowing themselves, to the point where they weren't really bothered anymore by the fact that their partner doesn't agree with them on a host of different issues. This is a total hypothetical, but I don't think it would work fundamentally, because I think you're going to bump up still against.
It'll get boring. Like, you're like, okay, cool, I feel fine, but like, what are we doing?
Yeah. So I know during COVID there were so many divorces and breakups that happened because couples were, they had to spend all their time together, and they were like, I don't even know you. Like, if it weren't for you leaving the house. Yeah. If it weren't for you leaving the house and being gone all day and only having to see you for an hour a day, okay, we can stay in that relationship, whatever that is.
A companionship. Like, I think a lot of people settle for just another body is there. How's your day? Can you get bananas?
Me, that's just like so boring. I just wouldn't even care. Anyway. Okay. People do it.
We have different, I mean, we have like a different echelon of relationship that you and I believe in. So like, but then there's what a lot of people are settling for is companionship.
Well, this is what I always talk about. Have you created a life by default, or in this case, a relationship by default versus one by design? So the invitation, with whether it's listening to this podcast or being part of the whole life architecture work and the jungle and the gardener work, is to be a creator of your relationship by design. So, okay, so this is an opportunity with all of this stuff going on for people to really consider if they're in a relationship with someone who doesn't align with their vision and their values for what they want to create in their life and what makes them come alive. Aliveness is important in a relationship. If you're dead, you're not going to be, very fulfilled.
Nope.
So it's an invitation to give some consideration. Is this relationship serving you, and are you serving it in the way that, are you bringing aliveness to it? Let's just put that on the shelf for a second. What about the couples that do align on the value system, but they're feeling like the world is against them right now? Like nothing seems to be working. I can't predict anything. I'm thinking of all these people like right now who might be experiencing job losses.
Yeah.
Because of the mass firings that are starting to happen in the United States. I'm thinking about people in Europe and Canada and Mexico who may be experiencing job losses because of incoming tariff threats. And these people who are losing their jobs might be in a relationship. And so how do you navigate these kinds of things, when it's happening on just... This isn't like, oh, this was a surprise. I mean, this is like mass stuff. And then and then let's not forget artificial intelligence disrupting the economy. So it's like relationships. They say that healthy relationships are often taken out by financial concerns, having children, the death of a child, right? There's these core things. And we're seeing a lot of relationships are dealing with all of it right now. Not just like one or two, it's like all of it.
Yeah.
So what are you telling the clients you're working with when they're coming to you with this overwhelm?
Well, like you have to double down on your resources. Like the whole thing with the book I'm writing, the resourcing method, is your resources need to meet the challenge. And so even I've had to, like, I used to be able to like center myself, do some breathing, tune in, and I'm good for the day. I've had to increase my meditation to 30 minutes minimum to like just be somewhere centered. Like I can't do the bare minimum. So like doing things as status quo isn't going to work. Like just going through your normal day. Like I would say leaning in on supporting one another. How are you feeling? The other person, like one person goes, how are you feeling? The other person just talks. There's no interjection. And then the other way, how are you feeling? Because we'll talk a lot, but not do how are you feeling and be really listened to. So that's a really misunderstood how powerful that is to share, but also be heard and then be like, okay, we're doing this together. I now know what you're scared of. It's just, you're just saying, actually, that show where there's the twins, This Is Us. They do this exercise, like what's the worst thing that could happen? There was the couple that would do that. And then they would just say it like, this is the worst stuff that could happen. They just get it out and the other person's listening. They're like, okay, but you're not alone with it. And I think feeling alone and feeling unsafe is just so detrimental. So to come together, increase your resources, create a plan of no matter how your day's going, like this is the new brushing your teeth for your emotional health, because it's so much. So I would say something to that effect, but that's a good place to start.
That's a great place to start, because in times where the world isn't totally being turned upside down, you may not need that kind of sort of intensive period every day. Like maybe you would check in much more kind of haphazardly or casually, But in these kinds of times, so, okay, we're talking about meditation, which is important. Creating a space where you can share, which is important because now you're not burying that fear or that thought. You're at least articulating it so it doesn't fester. Right.
And if your partner is in a really under-resourced state, they're just really ferally angry and like they're not going to be able to hold space, you could journal. Just pretend like you're talking to someone. So, like people get really mixed up and messed up about journaling. I was like putting a new client on journaling. She's like, okay, I ordered a journal online. I'm like, we just need a pen and paper. Like you could use it doesn't matter. It's the getting your thoughts out and being witnessed by yourself. So if you don't, if it's not a good day, that person's just like, I got nothing. That could happen. You can still audio yourself. Like it's just the process of showing up and being witnessed.
So even friends now, I'm thinking like,
friends,
again,
for sure.
I mean, it's kind of changing the social dynamics we're used to. It's kind of like this moment in time is sort of you know, maybe you wouldn't bring up personal stuff in friendship dialogue and conversation because it's too heavy. And a lot of people, think that the social cues are let's just keep it light or something like that. But I'm saying that this moment in time, you might have to be really intentional and be like,
what's going on?
Even to your friends, hey, listen, can we have like some serious conversations,
Yeah.
So just as a mental health, management tool.
Absolutely. Without fixing. I just want to be heard. I don't need advice. I don't need to be told that I have a great life and, oh, but you're pretty or whatever. Just people will just try to say something to brighten it up. And it's like, no, just be with it. Be with me with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So this almost like, and people talk about spiritual bypassing where it's like, this is a version of that, but we could call it emotional bypassing. Like, I don't want to feel the emotions. Right.
Yeah. I don't want you to feel those emotions and I don't know what to do. And I feel like I should make those emotions go away because I'm a good friend. It's like, no, being with someone in their emotions is really, really powerful. And that's intimacy.
Yeah.
And then we don't feel alone. Sorry.
Yeah. So if you're in a relationship, that will actually help you deepen intimacy as opposed to being too siloed, afraid people not talking.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. Yes.
And if you're not in a relationship and you're just dating, maybe the person you're dating, you're not at that place where you're comfortable with that yet. So maybe it's a friend or someone else that you talk to. But the point is, in these crazy times, you're going to have to do different things. People are going to have to step outside their comfort zone of, well, I normally don't talk to my friends or my family or my partner about this kind of stuff. Well, that's not going to work for you in this situation. Yeah. You're just going to be... and then what about like other things to de-stress? I mean, I use exercise and running and stuff like that.
Amazing. Well, I was just about to say that when you're like, if you're dating, it made me think of like, go on a date, go learn a new skill, like go learn something together because just get off of it. just that would be an amazing thing to do too. It might not make sense or like, oh, I'm not in the mood or I'm too tired. It's like, no, it just that aliveness, the livening. It doesn't have to be expensive or like take a lot of time. I would get creative with it. I would start, like I say to a lot of couples, like start a shared, I have an Apple, like a shared note, ideas for date night, ideas for a fun activity together, ideas for like learning a language together. It's like using your brain for not just get normal shit done. Now the brain has you and you don't have it. Now like the thoughts. Like if you have these interruptions, that's really good too. But yeah, like exercise, like whatever self-care someone knows is good for them. Anytime I work with something, like, what are the things that work for you? Are you doing them? And like, no.
I know that's the problem is that like, so many people know it, but don't do the thing. Like, I just yesterday went to my first yoga class in several months.
Oh, right. You had mentioned.
Right. And oh, so incredible. Like, but a yoga class, breath work. These are kinds of things. I guess what we're saying for those listening and watching is we're in a crazy moment of time and locking our emotions in the cellar and trying to avoid it is not a strategy.
No.
Not talking to your partner if you're in a relationship and you do have shared worldview and values is not going to assist. So you're going to have to, you have to almost have a countermeasure for the amount of chaos and uncertainty, the force of that's coming at you. You have to meet that with the equal, that's the resources you're talking about, equal the force with your resourcing, exercise, meditation, diet, sleep, talking.
Yeah.
Therapy, working with people who, like yourself, who can help sort of be that witness that, but also provide takeaways and guidance for how to specifically for their situation, what to do in that situation. And then another thing that I've heard a lot of people talk about is, turning the news off. And now it's difficult in a democracy because it's like you don't want to be uninformed about what's happening.
There's a balance.
I did that for myself, about a month ago. I was like, you know what, I'm not going to stare at the craziness that's happening in the news. I'm going to get my news from like, I chose Jon Stewart and Bill Maher, kind of twice a week.
That's great. You're going to know what you need to know like that. Yeah. At the end of the day, Like being on the news all the time, thinking that the mind is going to, the scared mind is going to think being in the know is going to keep you protected. It's just keeping you in a state of fear. And that's really so detrimental. I was just saying, like, I don't know if I said that on live, but I was talking to someone at the bank and she was talking about how people are coming in and they're so rude. And that's what scared people do, and they're entitled and they're freaking out. People are freaking out. And so the more centered you can become for yourself, but it's also, honestly, if you're into being, volunteering, like you being a centered person is really good for everyone around you,
including you.
Yeah. Like it has this ripple effect of how you are out in the world, and it will help other people the more centered you are. So it's going to be better in your relationship, better with your kids for sure. When you're all freaked out, your kids are going to feel that. They're going to respond back. Your pets are going to respond back. Like, everything is biofeedback in a house. Like we're all, so to have safety, to get a sense of safety, or to just like be in your house, get in your house and just be like, I'm safe right now. I have water right now. Like marinate in feeling safe because there's so much you can't control.
Yeah. Okay. We knew this was going to be a short one. I feel like we need a part 2 to really dig into this, actually, because it's not going anywhere. So we're going to continue this on our next episode and drill in a little bit deeper because there's just so many people right now that are just feeling like the world is crashing down around them and they do not know what to do about it or who to be about it. So,
and I'm going to ask people more questions, specific questions about it. Like, hey, how's it going? How's it going with your partner? To the conversation.
Let's dig into it. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining. We'll have a regular, normal, lengthy conversation next time. We had to keep it short today. Sometimes that happens. It's life. Hopefully this was helpful, and we will dig in for part 2 of this on our next episode of The Most Important Conversations. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again next time.
That concludes this episode of The Most Important Conversations. This in-depth conversation could set you on the path to self-improvement, which is essential if you want to be an effective leader and take meaningful action in your life. If you enjoyed this episode and want more of these stimulating discussions, you can find them at tmicglobal.com. Remember, the world is at a crossroads right now. You can't afford to waste this opportunity to take charge of your life, build meaningful relationships with others, and co-create a brighter tomorrow. Thank you for listening. See you on the next one.